The world never stops demanding your attention. You check your phone, you answer emails, you rush through traffic, all while a low hum of anxiety follows you through the day. This constant noise is the very chaos the ancient Stoics sought to conquer. Marcus Aurelius wrote that our soul should be like an inner citadel, a fortress untouched by the storms outside. This video is your practical, step-by-step visual guide to building that fortress of calm. You will learn the foundational mindsets and daily practices to construct a profound and lasting peace within yourself. We will uncover how your own judgments build the walls of your personal fortress, and we will explore the simple daily habits that can fortify your mind against any external pressure. What does true inner calm actually feel like to you? Where is the one place in your life where chaos cannot reach you? For the Stoics, this safe haven is not a hidden cabin in the woods or a secluded beach. It is the inner citadel, a fortress of the mind built not from stone but from reason. This is the core of your being, the part of you that remains unshaken when the world outside is in turmoil. The ancient philosopher Epictetus gave us the blueprint for this fortress when he wrote that some things are within our power, while others are not. Within our power are our own judgments, our impulses, our desires, and our aversions. Everything else, from the weather to the opinions of others, is not. The chaos of the world is the endless siege against your walls. The traffic jam, the critical comment, the unexpected bill, these are all soldiers in that attacking army. But your reasoned judgments are the thick, impregnable walls of your fortress. They decide whether to let the chaos in or to keep it out. Think of a recent event that disturbed your peace. Perhaps you received an upsetting email. The email itself, the words on the screen, is an external event you cannot control. That is the siege. Your judgment of that email, your decision to either react with fury or to respond with calm analysis, that is the fortress wall. Which one did you focus on, the event you could not change or your reaction, which you absolutely could? Building this foundation is the first and most critical step, because without it, every other practice is just a temporary fix. The single most important skill for building calm is knowing what you can actually control. Your reasoned judgments are the first stone of your inner fortress, and this principle, known as the Dichotomy of Control, is the mortar that holds it all together. The Stoic teacher Epictetus opens his handbook with a line that changes everything. He says that some things are up to us and some things are not. Our own opinions, impulses, desires, and aversions are up to us. They are the internal territory you govern completely. Everything external, your body, your possessions, your reputation, and what other people say and do, is not up to you. Suffering does not come from the events themselves, but from our desperate, exhausting attempts to control what was never ours to command in the first place. You try to force the traffic to move, you agonize over a critical comment, you fret about a future outcome that is still unknown. Each of these is like trying to command the ocean tides with your bare hands. It is a futile struggle that only leaves you drained and defeated. But when you redirect that energy inward, everything changes. You cannot control the traffic, but you can control whether you spend that time fuming or listening to a peaceful piece of music. You cannot control the critical comment, but you can control whether you let it ruin your afternoon or you analyze it for any useful grain of truth. This is not about giving up. It is about focusing your power where it truly matters. Take a moment and think of 3 things you are worried about right now. In your mind or even on a piece of paper, write them down. Then, next to each one, make a simple label. Is this worry about something within my control, or is it about something outside my control? This single act of sorting is the most practical first step you can take. It is the moment you stop fighting the storm and start strengthening your walls instead. What if your first thought about a situation is not a fact, but merely an impression you can choose to reject? This is the heart of the Stoic discipline of ascent, the next layer of your fortress wall. Your mind is constantly receiving impressions from the outside world. A harsh word, a disappointing outcome, a sudden noise. Each one arrives with a story already attached, a quick, emotional judgment that feels like absolute truth. The Stoics teach us that this initial story is not the event itself. It is just the first draft, and you hold the power to edit it. You can create a small, crucial gap between the stimulus and your response, a moment of space where your reason can intervene. Marcus Aurelius practiced this constantly in his private writings. He advised himself to strip away the story you are telling yourself about the event. See the thing for what it is in itself without the added narrative of insult or catastrophe. Think about that critical email again. The impression that immediately floods your mind might scream, "I am a failure." That feels utterly real and devastating. But if you pause in that gap, if you examine the impression before you assent to it, a different truth emerges. The examined truth might be, this is feedback on one specific task I completed. It is not a verdict on my entire worth as a person. The event is the same, but your perception of it has completely changed. This is how you fortify your perception. You are not stopping the arrows from flying, but you are putting on armor so they no longer pierce your peace. Can you recall a recent time you reacted badly, perhaps with anger or deep hurt? Look back at that moment and ask yourself, what was the initial impression I accepted without question? Was it that someone was deliberately trying to disrespect you, or that a situation was an absolute disaster? In that small space between the event and your reaction, your freedom resides. Mastering this discipline builds a powerful filter for the chaos, allowing only clear, reasoned judgments to enter your inner citadel. For the Stoics, a successful life is not about wealth or fame. It is about one thing, living in agreement with nature. This phrase sounds abstract at first, but it holds the key to a profound and unshakable calm. Living in accordance with nature simply means living in harmony with your own rational human nature. We are not wild animals driven purely by instinct, nor are we unfeeling rocks. We are thinking beings designed to use reason to guide our actions. When we act against that core design, we create internal friction, a grinding dissonance that feels like anxiety and discontent. Acting in line with it brings a smooth, powerful flow to your life. This is where the four cardinal virtues come in: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. They are not rigid rules, but the blueprint for a life lived well, the architectural plans for your inner fortress. Wisdom is your ability to see the world clearly, to discern what is truly good and what is not. Courage is the strength to act on that wisdom, even when it is difficult or frightening. Justice is your duty to treat other people with fairness and kindness. And temperance is the self-command to exercise moderation in all things, to master your desires and aversions. Seneca wrote that the greatest reward of a virtuous life is to be virtuous, but the immediate reward is a tranquility that nothing can shatter. The sole good for a Stoic is this virtuous action itself. Everything else, your health, your possessions, your social status, is merely preferred or dispreferred. They are not good or bad in themselves. Your character, your intention, your action, that is the only thing that is truly good. This shifts your entire focus from outcomes you cannot control to the one thing you always can, your own moral choice in this very moment. Picture a scenario at work. A colleague makes a significant error on a shared project, and you have a choice. you could let them take the blame, preserving your own spotless reputation. That is the convenient path, or you could choose justice. You could speak up, acknowledge the shared nature of the task, and work together to find a solution. The first choice might bring a fleeting relief, but it is built on a foundation of sand. It will breed guilt and insecurity. The second choice, the just one, is difficult in the moment. It requires courage, but the calm that follows is deep and lasting. You have acted in accordance with your nature as a rational, social being. You have strengthened your inner fortress with a brick of integrity. Which of these four virtues, wisdom, courage, justice, or temperance, feels most relevant to your life right now? Choose just one and consider how you could practice it more consciously in the coming week. Perhaps it is the courage to have a difficult conversation you have been avoiding, or the temperance to step away from a frivolous distraction. Every conscious act of virtue is another stone firmly placed in your wall. We are often told to only visualize success, to focus on the positive and block out the negative. But what if that approach is secretly making you more fragile? What if imagining things going wrong is actually the key to fearing them less? The Stoics had a powerful and counterintuitive practice for this exact purpose, a mental armor they called Premeditation of Evils, the Premeditation of Evils. This is not about pessimism or inviting bad luck. It is a deliberate exercise in vaccination for the soul. By mentally rehearsing potential challenges and losses, you inoculate yourself against the shock and despair they can cause when they arrive. You see the event in your mind's eye, you feel the initial sting, and then you watch yourself navigating it with reason and strength. This process robs the future of its power to terrorize you. Seneca wrote extensively on this, urging us to rehearse poverty, exile, and even death in our minds. He argued that the person who has anticipated these events is never overwhelmed by them. The blow loses its force because you have already braced for it. The goal is to discover, through this mental rehearsal, that none of these potential misfortunes are the end of the world. They are simply events, and your reasoned judgment about them is what gives them meaning. Try this with a small, common anxiety. Close your eyes for a moment and vividly imagine losing your phone. Feel that initial jolt of panic, the frustration, the inconvenience. Now move to the next step. Mentally rehearse your calm, rational response. You would retrace your steps. You would use a computer to lock it. You would begin the process of replacing it. The world has not ended. Your character remains intact. You see that the catastrophe was not in the event itself, but in your uncontrolled reaction to it. Now take this a step further with a more personal fear. Perhaps you dread public speaking. Spend 2 minutes right now if you can, imagining your next presentation going poorly. The projector fails, your mind goes blank, the audience seems bored. Now watch yourself in this scenario. See yourself taking a deep breath, acknowledging the technical issue with a bit of humor, referring to your notes and continuing with composure. You are not visualizing a perfect performance. You are visualizing resilience. You are proving to your deepest self that you can handle difficulty without crumbling. This practice transforms anxiety from a looming monster into a manageable set of circumstances, building an armor of resilience that no external chaos can pierce. The Stoics had a practice for constant self-awareness that can stop negative emotions before they even start. They called it prosochê, a vigilant and unwavering attention to your own mind. Think of this attention as the watchtower high on the walls of your inner fortress. From this vantage point, you see everything clearly. You spot the first flicker of a negative impression, the first stirring of an irrational desire, long before it can grow into a full-blown storm of anger or fear. This is the absolute opposite of living on autopilot, where your reactions control you without your conscious consent. Epictetus warned that we must keep watch over ourselves as over an enemy lying in ambush. The enemy is not out there in the world. It is the unexamined impulse within, the automatic judgment you accept without question. Prosochê is the discipline of being your own sentry, standing guard at the gates of your own perceptions. How can you build this watchtower in your own life? Start with an anchor, a simple cue in your environment that pulls you back to the present moment. Choose a recurring sound you often hear, like the chime of a clock, the ping of a notification, or even the sound of a car passing by. Let that sound become your personal mindfulness bell. Every time you hear it, it is a call to check in. For just a few seconds, pull your attention inward. Ask yourself two powerful questions. What judgments am I making in this exact moment? And am I acting in accordance with my virtues? You do not need to change anything, just observe. Perhaps you catch yourself clenching your jaw over a minor inconvenience. Maybe you notice you are scrolling mindlessly, avoiding a task. That moment of recognition is a small victory. It is the sentry spotting a potential threat and raising the alarm before any damage is done. Here is a direct challenge. Set 3 random, silent alarms on your phone for the rest of today. Do not plan for them. Let them be a surprise. When each one rings, pause whatever you are doing. Ask yourself, am I acting virtuously right now? Am I assenting to a false impression of catastrophe or insult? This simple act, repeated, builds the muscle of prosochê. It trains you to step out of the river of automatic reaction and back onto the solid ground of your own reasoned choice. This constant, gentle attention is what transforms knowledge into lived experience, turning philosophy from a theory you read into a calm you inhabit. My formula for greatness is Amor Fati, the love of one's fate. This powerful idea, championed by the philosopher Nietzsche, is the ultimate expression of Stoic calm. It means wanting nothing to be different, not in the past, the present, or the future. This is the deep, wide moat that surrounds your fortress of calm, protecting it from any and all invaders. Amor Fati takes the dichotomy of control to its final, liberating conclusion. If you cannot control an event, and your only true good is your virtuous response, then every single thing that happens becomes fuel for your inner fire. Every obstacle, every setback, is not a hindrance to your peace. It is the very material you need to practice and strengthen it. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly when he wrote that a blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. Your reasoned character is that fire. A disappointment, a frustration, a loss, these are not buckets of water meant to douse your flames. To a mind trained in Amor Fati, they are simply more logs for the fire, making you burn brighter and with more intensity. Consider a personal setback, like being passed over for a promotion you worked hard for. The initial, automatic judgment screams of unfairness and failure. But Amor Fati asks you to look deeper. This event is now a part of your story, a piece of fate you did not choose. How can you love it? You can love it because it is an unparalleled opportunity to practice virtues you might otherwise neglect. It is fuel for practicing humility by releasing your sense of entitlement. It is fuel for practicing patience by trusting that your path has its own timing. It is fuel for practicing perseverance by continuing to do excellent work without the immediate reward. The missed promotion did not block your path, it became your path, the very ground you now walk on toward becoming more resilient. Take a moment and bring to mind one recent disappointment, something that genuinely bothered you. Now, try to articulate just one way this event could ultimately serve your growth. Perhaps a difficult conversation revealed a hidden insecurity you now have the chance to address. Maybe a project that failed taught you a crucial lesson about planning that will save you from a much larger failure in the future. This is not about pretending the event was pleasant. It is about recognizing that within the difficulty lies a hidden gift, a necessary lesson for the person you are becoming. When you can look at any twist of fate and see not an enemy but a teacher, your fortress of calm becomes truly unassailable. Let's take a step back, way back, to see our problems from a cosmic perspective. The ancient Stoics had a powerful mental exercise for this exact purpose, a meditation they called the view from above. Close your eyes for a moment, if you are able, and begin by picturing the room you are in right now. See the walls, the furniture, your own body sitting or standing there. Now, in your mind, begin to rise, float up through the ceiling and see your entire building from above. See the street, the neighborhood, the whole city laid out like an intricate map. Notice how the cars are just tiny moving dots and the people are barely visible. Keep rising, see your entire country, then the continent, a beautiful swirl of green and brown and blue against the curve of the earth. Now see the planet itself, a solitary, brilliant marble hanging in the vast black silence of space. See the moon orbiting, the sun blazing in the distance, our entire solar system just one small arrangement in a galaxy of billions of stars. This is the city of the world that Marcus Aurelius wrote about. From this vantage point, he asked himself, what becomes of all our bustling anxieties and rivalries, all the things that feel so urgent and immense from the ground? They shrink into utter insignificance against the backdrop of the cosmos and the sweep of time. Your current worry, that email that felt like a catastrophe, that social slight that stung for hours, where is it now in this cosmic view? It has vanished not because it is not real, but because its true scale has been revealed. This is not meant to make you feel small or meaningless. It is designed to give you the ultimate gift of perspective. Your inner fortress now has an observation deck, a quiet inner courtyard from which you can survey the whole of your life and see what truly matters. The next time you feel overwhelmed, when a problem feels like it is crushing you, take just 60 seconds to perform this mental flight. Do not wait for the perfect moment. Do it in your car before you go inside, or at your desk before you type a reply. Rise above the immediate frustration and look down. You will find that the weight you were carrying was not the event itself, but the limited view you had of it. From the quiet of your inner courtyard, you can finally see the vast, peaceful horizon. Athletes train their bodies to be stronger and faster. Stoics train their minds in a similar way by willingly stepping into discomfort. This ancient practice, known as voluntary discomfort, is like a blacksmith's forge for your inner resilience. It is not about seeking pain for its own sake or any form of masochism. It is a practical, deliberate exercise to prove to your deepest self that you can endure far more than your fears would have you believe. The Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus argued that practicing hardship is essential. He said we should periodically choose to wear humble clothing, eat simple food, and sleep on a harder bed. Why? To demonstrate that a life of happiness does not depend on perfect comfort, and to make ourselves less vulnerable to fortune's unpredictable whims. When you voluntarily expose yourself to a small chill or a minor hunger, you are not punishing yourself. You are having a quiet, powerful conversation with your own apprehensions. You are telling your fear of hardship, I see you, and you do not control me. Seneca wrote that we must create for ourselves a pauper's diet, and hard lodging and coarse clothing, so that we may never fear becoming a pauper. The goal is to drain the fear from potential future losses by experiencing a small, controlled version of them now. The applications for this are simple and safe. You could choose to end your next shower with 30 seconds of cold water. Feel the shock, breathe through it, and observe that you are still standing when it is over. You could decide to walk to the store instead of driving for a small errand, embracing the minor inconvenience. You could skip a single meal, not as a diet, but as a practice in mastering your appetite and realizing that a brief hunger pang is not an emergency. Each of these small acts is a brick of confidence added to your fortress wall. They prove that your peace is not dependent on perfect external conditions. So here is a direct challenge for you. This week, choose one form of voluntary discomfort to practice just once. It does not need to be dramatic or extreme. The act itself is less important than the conscious intention behind it. After you do it, take a moment to observe the quiet pride and the surge of inner strength that follows. Notice how this small act of mastery over a minor discomfort makes the larger anxieties of your life feel just a little less intimidating. If you only do one thing from this guide, let it be this simple nightly review. The Stoics did not see journaling as a diary of daily events. They saw it as the architect's final inspection of the day's construction, ensuring every stone of their character was sound. Seneca himself ended each day with a quiet, rigorous practice. He would ask himself 3 piercing questions. What bad habit did I correct today? Was I in conflict with anyone? And what could I have done better? This was not an exercise in self-criticism, but in clear-eyed self-examination. In his work on anger, he describes how this habit allowed him to sleep with a clear conscience, having confronted his own failings before they could fester. He called this the time when he pleaded his own case before his own judge. Your nightly review is that same court of reason, held in the quiet of your own mind before you sleep. It transforms the chaos of the day into structured lessons for a calmer tomorrow. Here is a simple template you can start with tonight. First, ask what went well. Where did I practice wisdom, courage, justice, or temperance today? Perhaps you showed courage by speaking up in a meeting, or temperance by choosing not to engage in a pointless argument. Acknowledge these victories. They are the strong bricks you laid today. Second, ask what could I improve? Where did my judgment fail me? Did I assent to a false impression of insult? Did I waste energy trying to control something outside my power? Be honest but not harsh. This is about identifying the cracks so you can repair them, not about condemning the wall. Third, create a small, actionable plan for tomorrow. Based on today's reflection, what one thing will I focus on? Maybe it is practicing the pause before reacting to criticism, or performing one small act of voluntary discomfort. This plan turns reflection into purposeful action. The power of this practice is not in writing a novel, but in the consistency of the inquiry. Commit to just 5 minutes with a notebook or a simple document on your phone before you sleep for the next 3 days. In that short time, you will begin to close the gate on the day's chaos, locking the lessons inside your fortress and leaving the noise outside where it belongs. What if your wants and fears are the real source of your anxiety? Every desire for a specific outcome and every fear of a particular discomfort ties your inner peace directly to the unpredictable world outside. This is the heart of the Stoic discipline of desire, the final gatekeeper you must station at the entrance to your fortress. Your task is to learn to want only what is virtuous and within your control, and to be averse only to what is truly vicious. Most of our common cravings for constant praise, for endless comfort, for more possessions are built on a simple error. We have judged these external things to be good and their opposites to be bad. But the Stoics remind us that this is a fundamental mislabeling of the world. It is this misjudgment that enslaves us, making our happiness a hostage to fortune. Epictetus offered the clearest diagnosis when he wrote that people are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. The critical comment from a colleague is just a sound in the air. It is your view, your judgment that it represents a catastrophic blow to your worth, that creates the storm inside you. The desire for a luxury car is just a preference for a particular mode of transport. It is your judgment that it will bring you lasting happiness and status that sets you up for disappointment. Consider the modern desire for social media validation. You post a picture and crave a certain number of likes. Each notification gives a small hit of pleasure, and a slow trickle of posts brings a dull ache of irrelevance. But those likes are externals, completely outside your control. Basing your sense of satisfaction on them is like building your house on a foundation of sand that shifts with every wave of popular opinion. The Stoic refrain is to desire only to act with virtue, to post what is true and kind, and to be indifferent to the public's reaction. Your good was in the act of posting with integrity, not in the unpredictable reward that followed. So take a quiet moment and look inward. Identify one desire that frequently causes you distress. Perhaps it is the desire for your project to be universally acclaimed. Now identify one powerful aversion, maybe your strong dislike of being alone with your thoughts. For the desire, ask yourself, what is the underlying judgment? Am I believing that this external validation is a true good that I must have? For the aversion, question the assumption behind it. Am I judging that a few minutes of quiet solitude are a bad thing to be avoided at all costs? By interrogating these deep-seated impulses, you begin to disarm them. You train your gatekeeper to only welcome in desires for your own good character and aversions to your own poor judgment, locking out the endless cravings and fears that lay siege to your peace. Anger is a temporary madness, and it is always optional. Seneca called it a brief insanity, a fever of the mind that burns you far more than it could ever burn anyone else. In the Stoic view, anger is not something that happens to you. It is a judgment you make, a story you tell yourself that you have been unfairly wronged. That initial flash of heat is just an impression, a signal. The anger itself is your full and willing assent to that impression, your agreement that this is a catastrophe that demands a furious response. But that judgment is almost always flawed. It is based on the false belief that another person's actions can truly harm your character, the one thing that is truly yours and cannot be taken unless you surrender it. The moment you feel that heat rise, you have a choice. Your first and most powerful step is to create a deliberate pause. Do not speak, do not act, simply breathe and create a space for your reason to enter the conversation. In that space, force yourself to remember the shared humanity of the person you are angry with. They are, like you, a fallible human being, acting out of their own ignorance, their own pain, or their own flawed judgment. They are not an obstacle placed in your path by a malicious universe. They are simply another person stumbling through life just as you are. Now pull back the lens further. Consider the true insignificance of this provocation in the grand scheme of your life and the cosmos. From the view of your inner courtyard, is this event really worth surrendering your peace, your reason, your virtue? Is this the log you wish to throw on your inner fire, or is it a bucket of water? Let's walk through a modern scenario, the simmering frustration of road rage. Another driver cuts you off abruptly. The initial impression screams, "That idiot is trying to kill me." The judgment of being wronged is instantaneous. The body tenses, the hand might hover over the horn. This is the critical moment. Pause. Take one deep, conscious breath. In that space, remember their humanity. Perhaps they are a new driver, nervous and making a mistake. Maybe they are a parent rushing to a sick child, distracted by fear. This is not an excuse for their action, but a tool for your own calm. Then consider the scale. In 1 hour, will this event matter? By tomorrow, will you even remember it? This single moment of poor driving is a tiny, insignificant speck in the vast timeline of your existence. It does not deserve the power to hijack your mind and dictate your actions. By refusing to assent to the initial, catastrophic judgment, you drain the situation of its fuel. The anger simply has nothing left to burn. Think back to the last time you were truly angry. Replay that moment in your mind, but this time insert the Stoic protocol. Where could you have paused? How could you have reframed the other person's humanity? What was the actual, lasting significance of the event? This is not an exercise in self-blame, but in reclaiming your power. You are discovering that the gate to anger is one you alone hold the key to, and you can choose at any time to keep it locked. The Stoics kept a skull on their desk not to be dark, but to be vividly, urgently alive. This ancient practice, Memento Mori, is a profound tool for building your fortress of calm. It is not about dwelling on death with fear, but about using its stark reality to clarify your life with absolute precision. When you hold the awareness that your time is limited and could end at any moment, the noisy chaos of the world loses its grip. Petty arguments, endless scrolling, and the pursuit of trivial approvals are suddenly revealed for what they are, distractions from what is truly meaningful. Marcus Aurelius wrote this reminder to himself over and over: you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. He was not being morbid, he was installing a filter for his attention, a way to instantly separate the essential from the irrelevant. Imagine facing a difficult conversation you have been avoiding. The fear of conflict feels immense. Now hold the thought in your mind that this could be your last week. The fear of the conversation shrinks, replaced by the far greater weight of leaving important words unsaid. Memento Mori reframes your entire existence, shifting your focus from what is easy to what is essential. A modern version of this practice could be as simple as setting a tasteful, text-only wallpaper on your phone with the phrase, "You could leave life right now." Every time you unlock your device, you receive a gentle nudge to use your next moments wisely. It is a call to choose a meaningful connection over a mindless feed, or to begin that creative project you have been postponing, instead of falling into another hour of distraction. This awareness makes you more forgiving because you realize that holding a grudge is a waste of your precious, limited time. It pushes you to act with purpose today, not in some distant future when conditions are perfect. So let this question settle in your mind. If you knew you had 1 year left to live, what would you stop doing immediately, and what is the one thing you would start? Your honest answers are not a to-do list for a hypothetical future. They are the clearest map you have to the life you should be building right now, within the unshakable walls of your own calm. Difficult people are not interruptions to your peace, they are the practice ground for it. Every challenging interaction is a live training session for your inner fortress, a direct test of whether your walls can hold against a real-world siege. The core principle here remains absolute. You cannot control another person's words, their tone, or their intentions. Your only territory, your only sovereign command, is over your own judgment of their behavior and your chosen reaction. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to accept people as they are, not as you wish they would be. He wrote that when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, "The people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." He did not say this to breed cynicism, but to build a foundation of realistic expectation. When you are not surprised by difficult behavior, you are far less likely to be overthrown by it. These individuals are acting from their own ignorance of what is truly good, from their own unresolved pain and flawed judgments. Their actions are a reflection of their inner state, not a verdict on your worth. Seeing this is the first step toward disarming the conflict within you. Think of a critic who seems to delight in pointing out flaws. The automatic impression is one of personal attack, a story that says this person is malicious and intends to harm me. But the Stoic reframe is to see them as misguided, perhaps even struggling with their own deep-seated insecurities. They are acting according to their confused nature. Your power lies in choosing to act according to your own cultivated nature, which is rooted in reason and justice. This is where mental rehearsal becomes your most powerful tool. Before your next encounter, script your inner dialogue. You might silently say to yourself, "This person is acting according to their nature, which is currently clouded. I will respond with justice and kindness, which is according to my nature." This is not about being a passive doormat. It is about being an active diplomat for your own peace. Justice demands you set firm boundaries if needed, and kindness allows you to do so without venom or hatred. Your calm, reasoned response in the face of their chaos is a victory for your character, a brick of granite added to your citadel. Bring to mind one specific person in your life who consistently tests your patience. Now plan your Stoic response for the very next time you meet. Decide on your inner mantra. Visualize yourself listening, pausing, and then replying with a tone that is firm yet devoid of resentment. In that planned response, you are not just managing a difficult person, you are mastering yourself. Who are you? A Stoic would answer not with a job title, but with a list of duties. Your identity is not a single, fixed label, but a collection of roles you have been assigned, each one a unique set of responsibilities waiting to be fulfilled with excellence. This is the cartographer's map for your life, a clear outline of your purpose drawn not in lines of longitude and latitude, but in the daily actions of your relationships. The Stoic concept of oikeiosis describes our natural impulse to connect with and care for what belongs to us, starting with our own being and expanding outward to our family, our community, and ultimately all of humanity. Your roles are the practical channels for this care. They are your stations in the city of the world, and your sole task is to man your post with virtue. The philosopher Epictetus used a powerful analogy, reminding us that we are like actors in a play. The director chooses whether your part is long or short, the role of a beggar or a king. Your only concern is to act your assigned part well. You do not get to write the script, but you have absolute authority over your performance. Your character as a parent, a colleague, or a neighbor is the role you have been given for this scene. Your lines are the words of kindness or fairness you choose to speak. Your blocking is the action you take to fulfill your duties. Success is not measured by applause or the length of the performance, but by the integrity you bring to the stage. Think about your own key roles in life right now. You are likely a family member, a friend, an employee or colleague, and a citizen of your community. Now define what the virtuous execution of each role truly means. For a parent, it is not about providing constant entertainment or material possessions. The virtuous duty is to model integrity, to teach resilience, and to offer unconditional love and guidance. For an employee, it is not about blind ambition or merely collecting a paycheck. The virtuous duty is to contribute your best skill and focused attention, to act with honesty, and to treat your co-workers with respect. For a friend, the duty is to be a reliable harbor in a storm, to offer candid advice when it is needed, and to celebrate their successes without a trace of envy. Each role provides a specific context for you to practice the cardinal virtues in a tangible, impactful way. Choose one of your primary roles, the one that feels most active or challenging for you at this moment. Take an honest inventory of your performance. Are you playing your part well? In your role as a sibling, for instance, have you been proactive in maintaining connection, or have you allowed distance to grow through neglect? As a citizen, have you fulfilled your duties to your community with informed engagement, or have you remained passively on the sidelines? This is not an invitation for self-judgment, but for clear-eyed assessment. It is how you take the abstract idea of virtue and translate it into the very real, daily script of your life. When you see yourself as a cartographer faithfully charting the territory of your duties, every interaction becomes a purposeful step, and your inner fortress gains the sturdy, reliable structure of a life lived on purpose. The obstacle is the way. This famous Stoic maxim is not a piece of optimistic poetry. It is a practical operating manual for your mind. It means the very thing blocking your path is not a detour on your journey. It is the most direct route to building the strength you need. An obstacle is not a blockade. It is the training equipment the universe has provided for you, free of charge. It reveals the hidden weaknesses in your character and then forces you to develop the precise strength required to overcome them. Marcus Aurelius faced constant political betrayal and the threat of barbarian invasions, yet he saw each challenge as material for his own moral development. He wrote that a blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. His character was that fire, and every obstacle, every difficult person, was just another log to fuel his growth. His military campaigns were not a distraction from philosophy. They were his philosophy in action. Similarly, Cato the Younger chose to stand against Julius Caesar, knowing full well he would likely lose his life. His political defeat and subsequent suicide were not a failure in the Stoic view, but a victory of unwavering principle. He used the ultimate obstacle, death itself, to demonstrate his absolute commitment to his virtues. He proved that the way forward was through integrity, even when the external outcome was defeat. This is the alchemy of the Stoic mind, turning the lead of hardship into the gold of character. Let's perform a creative exercise right now. Bring to mind one current obstacle in your own life, something that feels like a genuine blockage. It could be a difficult project at work, a strained relationship, or a financial constraint. Now take a moment and brainstorm 3 distinct ways this single obstacle could be used as fuel to practice a specific virtue. If your obstacle is a demanding project, it is your training ground for patience and perseverance. If it is a strained relationship, it is your gym for practicing courage to have a difficult conversation and justice to see the other person's perspective. If it is a financial constraint, it is your workshop for cultivating creativity and resourcefulness. The obstacle is not in your way. It is the way you learn patience, courage, or creativity. What is one current obstacle in your life that you have been viewing as a problem? Can you reframe it now, seeing it not as a wall, but as the very path forward, the specific training you need most? You don't yell at a sapling for not being an oak tree overnight. Your character grows the same way. Building a fortress of calm is a slow, deliberate cultivation, not a frantic construction project. Progress in Stoic practice is rarely a straight, upward line. It is more like a winding mountain path where you sometimes circle back to the same challenges, but from a slightly higher vantage point each time. You will have days where a minor inconvenience shatters your composure, and it feels as if all your work has crumbled. This is not failure, it is part of the training. The goal is not to become a perfect, unfeeling statue, immune to the world. The goal is to fail less often, and when you do stumble, to recover your footing more quickly. The measure of your strength is not in never falling, but in how fast you get back up and reset your walls. Seneca offered a beautifully practical standard for this gradual growth. He suggested we can be grateful if, by the end of the day, we have been able to remove just one of our own faults. He wrote that a single fault, withdrawn and abandoned each day, is a successful contribution. Imagine that, your entire day a success if you manage to identify and release just one unhelpful pattern, one automatic judgment of catastrophe, one moment of misplaced desire. This frames progress in human, achievable terms. It turns the monumental task of self-mastery into a series of small, daily victories. Think of this like physical fitness. If you miss one day at the gym, you do not lose all your muscle. The body, like the mind, has a memory built through consistent effort over time. The real damage is not in the missed session, but in the story you tell yourself about it, the judgment that you have failed and should therefore abandon the entire endeavor. The key is to return to the practice again and again with the patience of a gardener watering a young plant. You cannot see it grow from moment to moment, but over weeks and months the change becomes undeniable. So take a quiet inventory of your own journey so far. Where have you noticed even the smallest, most subtle improvement in your inner landscape? Perhaps you caught yourself before snapping in irritation and instead took a single deep breath. Maybe you recognized a desire for external validation and consciously chose to let it go. That moment, no matter how brief, is a genuine victory. It is a new, green shoot of resilience breaking through the soil. Acknowledge that growth, for it is the living proof that your daily efforts are building something lasting and strong, one patient day at a time. The Stoics had a simple phrase that protected them from disappointment in any endeavor. They would add a silent but powerful mental clause to every plan and every goal, fate permitting. This is known as the reserve clause, and it acts as a psychological safety net for your equanimity. It is the practice of pursuing your objectives with your entire being, with total focus and virtue, while simultaneously holding in your heart a serene acceptance that the final outcome is not yours to command. You are responsible for your effort, for your intention, for the integrity of your action. The result, however, belongs to the complex web of the world, a tapestry woven with threads you cannot see or control. This is not a recipe for half-hearted effort. It is the very opposite. You are freed to give your absolute best because your sense of self-worth is no longer chained to a specific result. Your well-being remains anchored in your virtuous attempt, safe and secure regardless of the external outcome. The ancient Stoics illustrated this with the example of an archer. The archer's job is to do everything within their power to hit the target. They must select the best arrow, carefully string the bow, take steady aim, and release with a calm and focused mind. This entire process is within their control, but once the arrow leaves the bow, it is subject to a sudden gust of wind, the movement of the target, or an unexpected obstacle. The final hit or miss is now outside the archer's command. A Stoic archer would have done their job perfectly by aiming well. They would not be disturbed if the wind deflected their shot, because their good was in the excellence of their attempt, not in the fickle verdict of fortune. Bring this into your own life with a practical example. You have a crucial presentation at work. Your internal dialogue, fortified by the reserve clause, sounds like this. I will prepare thoroughly, crafting a clear and compelling message. I will practice my delivery until it feels natural and confident. I will walk into that room and give this presentation my absolute best effort, fate permitting the technology to work and the audience to be receptive. Do you feel the shift? You have done your part. You have aimed your arrow with skill. The projector malfunctioning or a key audience member being distracted are the equivalent of the gust of wind. They are not a reflection of your character or your preparation. Your success was in the virtuous act of preparing and presenting with excellence. Your calm remains intact because it was never mortgaged to those external conditions in the first place. Think of a goal you are actively pursuing right now, something that matters deeply to you. Now, silently articulate your commitment to it, but add the reserve clause. I will work diligently to achieve this, fate permitting the circumstances to align. I will practice with discipline for the competition, fate permitting my health to hold. I will pour my heart into this relationship, fate permitting that we grow together. This simple mental habit severs the link between your effort and your expectation. It allows you to strive with passion without being poisoned by attachment. It is the final, gentle acceptance that you are the sailor, not the wind, and your fortress of calm is built to weather any storm, whether you reach the distant shore or not. How often do you stop to ask yourself if the person you are is the person you want to be? This uncomfortable question is the foundation of the Stoic Mirror, the daily practice of self-examination that reveals the cracks in your judgment before they can weaken your entire structure. It is not about harsh self-criticism, but about looking at your own thoughts and actions with the impartial, objective eye of a wise mentor. You are both the student and the teacher, the one who acts and the one who observes the action, holding your own soul to account. Seneca captured the spirit of this practice perfectly when he urged us to question ourselves, to conduct a daily reckoning of the soul. He believed this was how we could identify where we had been ruled by raw passion instead of calm reason, and realign ourselves with our chosen principles. This is the maintenance work for your inner fortress, the regular inspection that ensures every stone remains solid and every wall stands true. A powerful way to build this habit is with a simple midday check-in. Sometime around lunch, when the morning's momentum has settled, pause for just 60 seconds. Put down your phone, close your eyes if you can, and review the last few hours. Ask yourself a few focused questions against the standard of the 4 virtues. Did I act with wisdom in that meeting, or did I speak from ego? Did I show courage by addressing a difficult topic, or did I avoid it out of fear? Was I just and fair in my treatment of that colleague? Did I exercise temperance in my reactions to that frustrating email? You are not looking for a perfect score. You are searching for a single, honest point of learning. Perhaps you notice a lingering resentment from a minor comment, a clear sign you assented to an impression of insult. Maybe you recognize a moment where you chose distraction over focused work, a failure of temperance. Acknowledging this one thing is enough. It is a small, immediate course correction that prevents you from drifting further off path for the rest of the day. So take this instruction literally right now. Give yourself just 2 minutes, stop listening, and turn your attention inward. Perform a quick, honest assessment of your current state of mind. What judgment is occupying your thoughts at this very moment? Is it aligned with the person you are trying to become? This brief, direct look into your own mirror is not an ending but a conscious beginning. Philosophy is worthless if it stays in books. Let's weave it into the fabric of your day. The Stoics themselves insisted that their teachings were not for academic debate, but for lived action. Epictetus was blunt, telling his students that if they were not actively working to eradicate desire and fear from their lives, they were just playing with words. The true transformation happens when these principles become as automatic as your morning routine, seamlessly integrated into the rhythm of your life. The most effective way to do this is through a simple method known as habit stacking. You do not need to carve out hours for meditation or study. Instead, you attach a tiny piece of Stoic practice directly onto a habit you already perform without thought. Your brain already has a strong neural pathway for that existing habit, like your first sip of coffee or brushing your teeth. By stacking a new practice onto it, you hitch a ride on an established circuit, making the new behavior far more likely to stick. For instance, as you brush your teeth each morning, use those 2 minutes to silently recite a single Stoic maxim. It could be "the obstacle is the way" or "Amor, Fati." Let the words run through your mind with the rhythm of the brush, embedding the principle into your subconscious before the day even begins. During your commute, whether you are driving or on a train, practice the view from above. Instead of letting frustration take over in traffic, use that time to mentally rise above the scene. see your car as one small part of a flowing river of metal and the entire city as a living organism. This transforms wasted, stressful time into a daily gym for your perspective, and just before you sleep, while you are already in bed, perform your nightly review. Let the day's events play back, not as a chaotic reel, but through the simple filter of your virtues. Where did I act with courage today? Where did I fall short? This takes only a few minutes, and it closes the day with purposeful reflection instead of restless mind wandering. The power is in the consistency of these tiny, stacked moments. They are the threads you use on the weaver's loom, slowly creating a tapestry of calm that covers your entire life. Your challenge is to choose one existing habit, just one, and commit to stacking one single minute of Stoic practice onto it for the next 7 days. Which anchor will you choose, and what small practice will you attach to it? Your mind is a fortress. What you let through the gate matters just as much as the strength of the walls you have built. In our hyper-connected world, a relentless siege of notifications, headlines, and opinions constantly assaults your attention, and most of it is about things you cannot control. This endless stream of external noise is the modern form of the corrupting crowd Seneca warned us about. He advised us to avoid the crowd and its influence, for it is easy to be drawn into their ways of thinking, into their anxieties and their misplaced desires. Every sensational headline, every curated image of a perfect life, every angry political rant is an impression vying for your assent. When you consume it unconsciously, you are essentially opening the gate and inviting the chaos directly into your inner citadel. The goal is not to live in ignorance, but to become a librarian of your own mind, consciously curating the information you allow on its shelves. You must ask yourself, does this piece of news, this social media post, this conversation, help me practice wisdom and cultivate calm, or does it only stir up anger, envy, or fear about events I cannot change? A powerful way to start this curation is with a simple media fast. Choose one day this week, perhaps a Sunday, and declare a complete moratorium on news and social media. Do not check any feeds, do not open any news sites, do not watch any television news. The silence at first might feel unnerving, even uncomfortable, but as the hours pass, you will notice a profound quiet descending upon your mind. The artificial urgency fades, and the space it leaves is filled with a clarity you control. For a more sustainable practice, actively curate your digital feeds. Unfollow accounts that trigger comparison or outrage. Mute voices that specialize in constant complaint. Instead, consciously follow sources that promote wisdom, that showcase virtue, that inspire tranquility and thoughtful action. This is not building an echo chamber, it is building a sanctuary. Your attention is your most precious resource, and you must guard it as fiercely as a sentry guards the fortress gate. So take a moment and conduct a quick audit. Think of one source of information you consume regularly, perhaps a specific news channel, a social media influencer, or even a frequently negative colleague. Ask yourself with complete honesty, does this source contribute to my calm, or does it primarily feed my chaos? The honest answer will tell you everything you need to know about whether it deserves a place within your walls. The fortress of calm is not a selfish isolation. It is a base from which to serve the world. This inner citadel you are building gives you the stability and clarity to look beyond your own walls and see the shared city of humanity. The Stoics called this oikeiosis, our natural impulse to connect and care for others, and it is the very purpose of your cultivated peace. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself constantly on this point, reminding himself that we are made for fellowship and that to harm the hive is to harm yourself. Your rational mind is a tool meant for contribution, not just contemplation. It is designed to discern how your unique abilities can fit into the larger puzzle of the human community, benefiting the whole. When you act for the common welfare, you are not depleting your own resources, you are fulfilling your fundamental nature. A candle does not lose its flame by lighting another, it makes the entire room brighter. Think of a simple, daily interaction like holding a door for someone whose arms are full of packages. This is not just politeness, it is a micro-practice of justice and fellowship. You are recognizing a shared human situation and using a small amount of your energy to ease another's burden. Or consider giving a genuine, specific compliment to a colleague, acknowledging their effort or skill. This act of kindness strengthens the social fabric around you, creating a ripple of goodwill that often flows back to you in unexpected ways. These are not grand, heroic gestures, but the consistent, small bricks of service that build a better world. Your calm inner center allows you to perform these acts without expectation of reward, simply because it is the right thing to do, because it is in accordance with your nature. This week, identify one small, concrete act of service you can perform for your community. It could be volunteering for an hour at a local shelter, picking up litter in your neighborhood park, or simply offering your full, undivided attention to a friend in need. What single action will you take to extend the peace from your fortress out into the world around you? Let's step outside the walls of our personal concerns and look at the universe the Stoics saw. They gazed at the same stars we do, but they perceived something more, a living, breathing intelligence they called the Logos. This was not a distant, detached God, but a divine reason woven through every part of existence, the rational principle that gives order to the cosmos and purpose to our own small lives. To contemplate this was to feel a profound sense of awe, a recognition that you are part of a vast, beautiful, and intelligently arranged whole. Your personal anxieties, when held against this cosmic backdrop, begin to lose their overwhelming weight. Marcus Aurelius would lie awake at night and remind himself of this, writing that the soul is an emanation from the stars and the sun, a tiny fragment of that same cosmic fire. He urged himself to often contemplate the whole of time and the whole of substance, and to realize that each individual thing is but a fig seed, a mere speck in the infinite. This practice was not about escaping life, but about finding your true place within it. The philosopher Cleans, in his beautiful hymn to Zeus, praised this logos as the universal law of nature, the thunderbolt that steers all things. He saw the entire cosmos as a single, rational city, and every human being as a citizen of that grand polity. When you feel isolated in your struggles, this contemplation reminds you that you are never truly alone. You are a conscious participant in a universe that is, itself, awake and ordered. You can bring this into your own life with a simple 5-minute practice. Find a clear night and go outside, or pull up a breathtaking image from the Hubble telescope on your screen. Do not just glance, but truly look. See the swirling galaxies, the nebulae blooming with new stars, the ancient, steady light traveling for millions of years just to reach your eyes. As you gaze, allow your biggest current worry to surface in your mind. Now, hold that worry against the scale of what you are seeing. From the perspective of a galaxy, what does that stressful deadline or that personal conflict actually look like? It does not vanish, but its true proportion is revealed. It is a single, fleeting moment in an epic story billions of years in the making. This cosmic perspective does not make your life insignificant. It makes your capacity for reason and virtue all the more miraculous. In this vast, silent expanse, you have been given the extraordinary gift of consciousness, the ability to perceive this beauty and to choose to live with purpose within it. What one concern, if you viewed it from the deck of a starship orbiting a distant sun, would finally release its grip on you? Your negative emotions are symptoms. Let's find the underlying disease, the false belief. Think of yourself as a physician of your own mind, diagnosing the root cause of your distress instead of just treating the surface-level pain. The Stoics provided a precise diagnosis tool for this. They understood that every powerful, negative emotion is not a random occurrence. It is the direct result of a specific sequence that happens in an instant. First, an external event occurs, like a critical comment from your boss. This event presents an impression to your mind, a first draft of the story. The second step is your judgment, your assent to that impression. You accept the story as absolute truth. Only then does the emotion, the anxiety, or the anger flood your system. The emotion is not caused by the event itself, but by the judgment you made about it. Epictetus gave us the clearest formula for this when he wrote that men are disturbed not by things, but by the principles and notions which they form concerning things. The disturbance is in the notion you created, the story you told yourself. Your job as your own physician is to trace the symptom, the anxiety, back to the poisonous judgment that created it. Let's walk through a detailed case study. You feel a knot of anxiety in your stomach about an upcoming meeting. The symptom is the anxiety. Now ask yourself, what is the judgment I have accepted about this meeting? You must dig for the underlying belief. It might be something like, I must perform perfectly in this meeting, or I will be exposed as a fraud and my career will be over. That is the dogmatic impression, the absolute and faulty judgment you have assented to. Now challenge that judgment with the cold light of reason. Is it true that one single meeting defines my entire career? Is it true that a single imperfect performance makes me a fraud? What is the actual, realistic worst-case scenario? Perhaps someone will have a follow-up question I cannot answer immediately. That is an inconvenience, not a catastrophe. By dissecting the initial judgment, you drain the anxiety of its power. The event has not changed, but your perception of it has been healed. Take this diagnosis into your own life right now. Bring to mind one current negative emotion, a lingering irritation or a low hum of worry. Now take a moment and write down the judgment that likely preceded it. What is the story you are telling yourself about the situation? Be brutally honest. Write it down. Seeing that sentence on paper separates it from you. It becomes an object you can examine, and once you can examine it, you can begin to cure it. You are the sculptor and your character is the marble. Every choice is a strike of the chisel. This is not a metaphor for a yearly review or a moment of crisis. It is the reality of your daily existence. The person you are becoming is carved not in one grand gesture, but through 10,000 small, deliberate strikes made in the quiet, ordinary moments of your life. The philosopher Aristotle, whose ideas on character deeply align with Stoic thought, stated it plainly, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act but a habit. You do not decide to become a person of integrity and suddenly become one. You become that person by telling the truth in a minor, inconvenient situation, by returning the extra change a cashier gave you by mistake, by keeping a small promise you made to yourself. Virtue is a muscle, and it only grows through daily reps. Your capacity for courage is built not by facing a dragon, but by mustering the nerve to voice a dissenting opinion in a casual conversation. Your practice of justice is honed by fairly dividing a shared task at home, not by adjudicating a Supreme Court case. Your temperance is cultivated each time you choose to step away from a frivolous distraction and return to a meaningful task. Think of the micro actions available to you in just the next few hours. Choosing a glass of water over a sugary drink is a small act of temperance, a direct command to your body and your impulses. Apologizing quickly for a minor oversight, like forgetting to forward an email, is a practice of justice and humility, restoring balance to a relationship. Raising your hand to ask a clarifying question in a meeting, even if your voice shakes a little, is a concrete exercise in courage. Each of these seems insignificant on its own, a tiny tap of the hammer. But compounded over days and weeks and years, these taps define the entire sculpture. They smooth the rough edges of reactivity and shape the strong, clean lines of a resilient character. The marble does not argue with the sculptor. It simply accepts the form given to it by consistent force. Your mind is the same. It accepts the shape of your most habitual thoughts and actions. So the pressing question is not who you want to be someday, but what is the very next strike of the chisel you will make. Before this day is over, commit to one single micro-virtuous action. It can be as simple as completing one task you have been avoiding, or offering a genuine compliment without any ulterior motive. Which one small, deliberate strike will you take to shape your character today? When you travel light, you move freely. The same is true for your mind. A heavy pack of old resentments, constant comparisons, and rigid self-images will slow your progress and drain your energy on the journey toward calm. The Stoics practiced a form of mental minimalism, carrying only the reasoned judgments and essential principles they needed, and consciously shedding the rest. This is not about ignoring the past, but about refusing to let it dictate your present. Marcus Aurelius offered a powerful instruction for this very practice, writing that you can discard most of the unnecessary things that crowd your mind and make room for yourself. That room is the spacious, quiet interior of your inner fortress, uncluttered by the noise of what no longer serves you. Begin with a periodic mental decluttering. Look at the contents of your own mind as if you were packing for a long trip. What are you carrying that you no longer need? An old grudge from a year ago is a heavy, useless stone you are still hauling around. Envy of a colleague's success is like carrying their luggage instead of your own, weighing you down with a burden that was never yours to bear. An attachment to an outdated self-image, the person you were 5 years ago, is like wearing a coat that no longer fits, restricting your movement and comfort in the present moment. To make this tangible, try a simple mental exercise. Take a small piece of paper and write down 3 distinct mental burdens you are ready to release. Be specific. It could be a lingering resentment toward a family member, a persistent fear of financial lack, or a burning desire for a promotion that is simply not available right now. Look at those words, acknowledge the weight they have held in your life, and then symbolically discard the paper. Tear it up, burn it safely, or drop it into a recycling bin. This physical act represents a conscious choice to stop carrying that particular burden. It is a declaration that you are freeing up space in your mind for more useful tools like clarity, acceptance, and purposeful action. What is the one mental burden you are ready to leave behind today to lighten your load and move more freely toward your own calm? The fortress is never finished. It requires constant maintenance, or the chaos will find a way in. Your initial progress in building calm is a powerful achievement, but the moment you believe the work is done is the moment a crack appears in your foundation. The world and the primal, reactive parts of your own nature are always testing your resolve, probing for weaknesses in your walls. Complacency is the silent enemy of growth, the subtle voice that whispers you have finally arrived at a state of perfect wisdom and no longer need to tend to your inner citadel. Epictetus issued a stark warning against this very attitude, stating it is impossible for a person to begin to be a philosopher and also to be careless. He meant that the philosophical life is not a title you earn, but a continuous, active state of being. To be a Stoic is to be on guard always, consider the analogy of physical fitness. If you train hard for 6 months and build impressive strength, then stop entirely, your muscles will atrophy. Your hard-won gains will fade because the body adapts to the demands you place on it. Your mind operates on the exact same principle. The resilience you have built through practices like the nightly review or the discipline of ascent is not a permanent fixture. It is a living capacity that must be exercised daily, or it will weaken. When you skip your mental exercises, when you stop questioning your initial impressions, you are not standing still, you are actively backsliding. The chaos of the world is relentless, and it will exploit any gap in your attention. Think about an area of your own practice where you have recently become a little lax. Have you let your nightly journaling slide for a few days, telling yourself you are too tired? Have you found yourself reacting with old patterns of irritation, assenting to the first impression of insult without that crucial pause? This is the sentry nodding off at his post. Identify that one point of complacency now. Is it in your vigilance over desires or in your commitment to voluntary discomfort? Acknowledging this single lapse is not a failure. It is the most important maintenance work you can do today. It is the act of waking the sentry and restoring the vigilant watch that keeps your fortress secure. The Stoic sage is a lifelong student because they know there is always more to learn, even from their critics. This humble posture is not a sign of weakness, but the ultimate strength of a mind that is always open, always growing. It transforms the entire world from a source of chaos into a vast, unending classroom. Every single person you meet, every situation you encounter, holds a lesson for you if you are willing to receive it. The person you find difficult teaches you patience. The individual you see as a fool illustrates the very behaviors you wish to avoid. And the critic, the one whose words sting the most, becomes an invaluable teacher, holding up a mirror to your blind spots. Marcus Aurelius began his private meditations with a lengthy and heartfelt list of all he had learned from the people in his life. He credited his grandfather for teaching him good character, his father for integrity, his mother for piety and generosity, and even from those who were less virtuous, he learned what traits to avoid. He saw his entire life as a continuous education provided by the people fate placed in his path. You can adopt this same lens starting today. The next time you receive a piece of criticism that makes you bristle, pause before you react. Instead of viewing it as a personal attack, reframe it as a simple data point from a teacher about how you are being perceived. The data might be flawed, the teacher might be unskilled, but the information itself is neutral and potentially invaluable. Perhaps a colleague points out that you seem dismissive in meetings. Your automatic judgment screams that they are wrong and unfair. But if you pause and see them as a teacher offering data, you can ask yourself, is there any truth here? Have I been so focused on my own ideas that I have failed to listen fully to others? The criticism is no longer an arrow aimed at your heart, but a puzzle piece that could help you complete a more accurate picture of yourself. So take a moment for a challenging reflection. Identify one specific person in your life you find genuinely difficult. Now, articulate just one concrete lesson that person could teach you. Is the lesson about setting firmer boundaries? About understanding a different perspective, about practicing forgiveness for your own peace. By finding the lesson, you disarm the difficulty and reclaim your power to learn and grow from any circumstance. When you are gone, what will your character have built? This is not a question about your career achievements or the possessions you will leave behind. It is about the silent architecture of your soul, the inner fortress you have spent your life constructing, and how its design might offer shelter to others long after you are gone. The Stoics believed that a life dedicated to virtue is a life long enough, regardless of its actual number of years. Seneca wrote that life is long if you know how to use it. He argued that a person who has wisdom and integrity lives a full life, even if death comes early, while a person tossed by passions and fears has merely existed, even if they have lived a century. Your true legacy is not measured in years, but in the quality of your character and the positive influence you had on the human community around you. This is the ultimate purpose of your fortress of calm. It was never meant to be a private bunker for your own peace alone. It is a beacon, a structure of such stability and strength that it becomes a landmark for others, a testament to what is possible when a human being lives by reason and principle. Think about the eulogy you would hope to receive. Would it be a list of job titles, bank account figures, and material acquisitions? Or would it be a story woven with threads of kindness, of quiet integrity, of courage in the face of difficulty, of justice in your dealings with others? The legacy of character is built in the small, daily choices that no one may ever see. It is the patience you show a frustrated child, the honesty you practice when no one is checking, the courage to apologize when you are wrong, and the resilience you demonstrate when plans fall apart. These are the stones with which you build a life worth remembering. Take a moment and write down one single sentence. Describe the legacy of character you want to leave, not what you owned or achieved, but who you were at your core. Let that sentence be the final blueprint for your ongoing construction, a reminder that every virtuous choice today is another stone laid in a monument that will long outlive you. You have laid the stones and raised the walls, brick by deliberate brick, until your inner citadel now stands complete. This entire journey has been the step-by-step construction of a fortress of calm, built not with hands but with the timeless principles of Stoic wisdom. The unshakable truth at its heart is that your peace was never out in the world to be found, but always within you to be built, through the disciplined management of your own judgments and the daily, consistent practice of virtue. Your reasoned choice is the architect, and your virtuous actions are the materials. Marcus Aurelius, from the front lines of his own endless struggles, offered the final key to its great gate. He wrote that tranquility is nothing else than the good ordering of the mind, and that you will be satisfied if you shall act in accordance with your own nature, accepting what is given by nature. To accept what is given is to love your fate, to see every external event not as a threat to your peace, but as the very substance from which it is forged. This fortress is now yours to inhabit. You have the blueprint and the tools. You know how to question your impressions, to focus on what you control, and to meet each moment with courage and justice. The work continues with every sunrise, one Stoic practice at a time, but the foundation is set for a life of profound and lasting calm. If this guided journey has helped you find a new stone of clarity or a fresh layer of resilience, consider subscribing for more practical guides to living with wisdom. And to help build our community of practice, share one key insight you are taking from this video in the comments below. Your single reflection could be the spark that helps another person begin building their own walls today.